good times and good music.
Everyone having a good time?
We have your sports, news, and a whole lot more.
It's here at last.
Here on Low Country Radio.
Hey, this is Mechiel Kopaska, and welcome to my Fearless Innovator podcast. Thank you for joining me today. My hope is to inspire, educate, and entertain you. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Fearless Innovator podcast. My name is Mechiel Kopaska, and this is my first attempt at podcasting, so I'm quite new at this. But I wanted to share a story with you on how this whole podcast came to be. Roughly 20 years ago, my mom and dad called me from Iowa, and they said, "Shell, get us some tickets to the Daytona 500. So I did. The very first Daytona 500 we went to was the 44th annual. It was the year after Dale had died. I've been going to the Daytona 500 for roughly 20 years. And for the past 6 years, I've been taking my Freightliner and my 35-foot RV over to the Geico parking lot and camping out with my friends on turn one. My neighbors, I know my neighbors to the right, they're from Michigan, and my neighbors to the left, they're from Waycross, Georgia. And I've known them for now about 6 years, like I said. And so this year, I decided to go over early just to get the experience, of other races that were going on. I arrived early on Wednesday, and luckily, when I got there, Steve Howell was there, and his friend Daryl was there, and his brother Freddie were there. And then, of course, my friends from Michigan were also there. And luckily, I'm glad, too, because I really needed help back in this rig-in, because I don't know if you've ever been to the Daytona 500 and the parking, they park you in there like sardines. So luckily, Freddie, which was Steve's brother, stood up and said, "I'll help you out." So he went over, and it took him a couple tries, but it was a lot less than what I was going to do. He finally got it in there, and he goes, they all said, "Well, okay, well, you go get set up and we'll talk to you later." And I said, "All right." But they said, "Come on out later." And I said, "All right." After I got the rig and the camper all set up, I was ready to, go mingle and talk to people. So I went over, and of course, they're all sitting outside watching, the traffic go by and different things. And I get over there, and of course, I'm just a chit-chatting away. And I told them, I said, "Well, I'm sorry I'm late." And they said, "Well, that's all right." I said, "Well, luckily I made it here before, it got too dark." And they said, "Well, what were you up to?" And I said, "Well, this morning I was actually interviewed on a radio station here in Tampa called the Business Happy Hour. And Freddie spoke up and he said, 'You were?' And I'm like, 'Yeah.' And he said, 'Well, why were you interviewed?' And I said, 'Well, I've actually written a book. The book is called Why My Job Quit Me, Jumpstart Your Firing.' And he said, 'You did?' And I'm like, 'Yeah, it was published back in October. And I'm using it kind of as a lead magnet to, what I'm really doing.' And he said, 'Well, what do you do?' I said, 'I'm a real estate investor.' I said, 'But what I really focus on is helping people with win-win solutions.' So I work directly with the sellers, and, I come up with a win-win solution for both of us so that both people walk away, happy." And he goes, "You do?" And he said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, do you have a copy of your broadcast off the radio?" And I said, "Yeah, I have it." And he goes, "Well, later on, I want to go hear it." And I said, "All right." So later on that evening, he came over and we sat and we listened to the radio show, and it was an hour long. And he said, "Mechiel, you need to be on the radio or a podcast or something on a weekly show." And I'm like, "Really?" I said, "That is really strange." I said, "Because you don't even know me and you're telling me that." And he goes, "Yeah, I can tell by the way you tell a story. You've got content. You have a great speaking voice." And I'm like, "That's really funny," because I said, I have a mentor that I've been with, actually two mentors, Tyler and Jill Sheff, and they've also been encouraging me to podcast. I said, "But the difference is they know me and you don't." So now I'm beginning to wonder if there isn't some credence in this, right? I'm like, I can't believe someone just out of the blue that doesn't even know me would say, "You need to be on the radio." And then come to find out, he goes, "Mechiel." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you know I own a radio station?" I said, "No." "I don't know anything about you. I just met you." And he goes, I own a radio station out of Savannah. And he goes, and I can get you on hundreds of stations across the United States. And I'm like, no way. This is crazy. And I said, well, all right, well, I'll think about it. Later on, I got to thinking about it, and I was telling him later, I said, my mentor actually has a lot of podcasting experience. I said, he has his own podcast. It's called The Cash Flow Guys. And he's probably got over 254 episodes. So I know that he knows, what he's doing. I know he knows radio. And I said, would you be interested in talking with my mentor on a conference call one day? And he said, yeah, we could do that. I said, all right. Well, later on the next day, then I got to meet Freddie's wife, Catherine, and she came over and she said, Mechiel, Freddie told me you wrote a book. Could I get a copy? I'm like, yeah, you can have a copy. So I went and got 3 copies, and I gave one to them, and I gave one to Stacy and Daryl, and I gave one to Steve and Marla. Well, later on that day, Catherine comes out and she goes, Mechiel, I just read the first chapter in your book. And she goes, you know what? Freddie's right. You need to be on the radio. And I'm like, this is just crazy. I'm the kind of girl that when I was in IT, I was behind the scenes. I wasn't forward facing. I dealt well with customers after the deal was sold. I'm not a sales girl. I'm not a marketer. I'm just a girl. And this is what I'm saying to myself in my head. I'm like, I just don't know what these people are seeing in me. So I said, all right. So I get home, and it was a couple days. I got to thinking about it. And so I reached back out to Catherine and Freddie, and I said, would you guys be interested in doing that conference call with my mentor? And they said, absolutely, we'll do it. And I said, so I kind of gave him the rundown. I said, he's got a lot of experience. He can help me understand whether or not this is a good direction for me. And they said, absolutely, let's do it. So we scheduled a call. I got Tyler on the phone, and I got those 2 on the phone. And Tyler was actually able to, understand more about the radio station than I could, because I've never been involved in radio or anything. And so he asked a lot of poignant or, very pointed questions. And then as well, Freddie and Catherine also spoke up and said, this is what we're all about. This is what we do. This is what we can do for Mechiel. And so the call ended, and then Tyler called me back and he goes, Mechiel, I don't know how you got in touch with these people, but you need to do this. I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah, you need to do this. I said, okay, so next steps are Mechiel has to provide content. And he goes, yes, you do. So here I sit in my barn today, providing you all content to who I am and what I'm doing. And I am hopeful that what this show will bring for you is, my end goal really is to inspire you, educate, and entertain you with the stories about my journey and how I became an entrepreneur in real estate investing. Like I said, I do have a book. It's called Why My Job Quit Me, Jumpstart Your Firing. It is on Amazon. If you just look up that, you'll find me. My name is a little difficult. It's Mechiel Kopaska, but it's spelled funny. And it's Mechiel. That's Mechiel, not Mechiel, not Michael. It's Mechiel. And Kopaska, Kopaska. Another way you can reach out to me is go to fearlessinnovator.com and go to the contact page. You can fill in your name and email address. And if you have any questions regarding real estate or any houses, or if you've got anything for sale and you don't know what to do with it, I'm your girl. I can help you with that. I can reach out to you from there. You all have a great day. I'm off to go look at an RV park. Talk to you soon. Thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the show. If I can help you invest in your future, reach out to me at fearlessinnovator.com. Catch me later.